Welcome to Fluent and Chill. I'm Anthony K of Sports Fluent. He's Jermaine of Chilltown Hoops. Chill. Jay, how you doing, man?
I'm a little bummed, Tone.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. I thought my boys.
Oh,
I'm a little bummed, Tone.
oh yeah, that.
Just a little bummed.
Do you want to start with that because we've got like a really good conspiracy. We're gonna talk NBA trade rumors.
Okay.
Mail drop. We've got
All right.
the Bengals Super Bowl edition of mail drop.
All right.
But
Okay.
you want to start recap? Let's recap that game. Let's start with that. Let's just get it out of the way. A little therapy session, and then I think we can move on.
Let's just do it. Let's just rip
All
the
right.
Band-Aid right off.
So Rams, 49ers, the interception that could have been.
That's the game, Tone. Game's over. But with all of that being said, right? We didn't really do much in the second half offensively, right? We didn't run the ball like we normally do. Debo touched the ball, I think, 9 times total in the game. Our defense did everything that they could to keep us in the game. Because what can't happen, Tone, is, you saw the 0-1 Ravens, you saw the 0-3 Bucks, the 85 Bears, where the defense basically stands on their head. But at some point, you got to score.
Right.
Warren Sapp said to Trent Dilfer, if you give us 17 points, if you give us 20 points, we'll make it stick. Well,
Yeah.
when you get to this point, you have to score because the better teams are going to score. And you ain't got to you don't have to light the scoreboard up, Tone. That's not true. You don't have to score 35. No, you're not. But 17 is not enough, especially with the defense that we had and how banged up they were. And we get this late into the season. And on top of that, playing the team as many times as we've played them. 17 is not enough. I thought that 24-28 would have won that game. I was convinced of that. Now, I hear a lot of people talk about how Jimmy G wasn't stellar. Up until the fourth quarter, he didn't really play bad. But what I can say to you, Tone, and I think I've said this to you in the past, Jimmy G is a better version of Mark Sanchez. That's who he reminds me of. He just looks like he's a better version of Mark Sanchez. He's not very mobile. He's maybe average in terms of being mobile. His reads are average to above average at best. He doesn't have a great arm. He's not very accurate. He's accurate enough. He's one of those guys who
you're being nice. So I'm just gonna say it. Jimmy G is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Period. Period. End of sentence. End of paragraph. Turn the page. He's not. So anyone who is expecting him to be really good or elite, especially in a playoff game, you're going to be disappointed. Now, I get it. You see the almost sack where he throws it up and it gets interception and that ends the game. That's not what cost them the game. It's not. It ended the game.
That's all.
You want to look at that last play. That's not what cost them. That's not what cost them the game. He's just not that guy. They had their opportunities. The defense, like I said, and I'm not even blaming the interception. I know I started with the interception, but it wasn't that play either. It's like any game. There was a bunch of plays here or there that had they gone. Remember, I always say this: to get to a Super Bowl, to get to an NBA championship, to get to the Stanley Cup, the ball has to bounce your way a few times. And in this particular game, it didn't. And as good as Matthew Stafford, so now I'm going to flip to the Rams. As good as Matthew Stafford has played these playoffs, he gave them a chance.
Yes.
Just like they gave the Bucks a chance last week. He gave him a chance.
I knew he would, Tone. Like I knew he would. The whole time I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, he's going to let us back in this game. Just give it a minute. He's going to let us back in.
The difference between Matthew Stafford and the Lions and the Matthew Stafford with the Rams is going to be Sean McVay putting him in a position to succeed. It's going to be Cooper Kupp, OBJ, making plays that a lot of receivers can't make. I know people aren't high on Cooper Kupp, which I don't get. And let me make this distinction because people say, well, I'll pick all these wide receivers over him. Okay. I'm okay with I'm listen, if you say, hey, I'm going to take Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins, I'm taking those guys over Cooper Cup. I get that. Notice I'm doing this motion. The reason I'm doing this motion is because you're talking about moving forward. But if I stop and look back at this season, you're not taking anybody else's season over him.
Nobody.
That's just a lie. If you do, you're lying. You're lying to
You
yourself. You're lying to whoever's listening. You're not picking anybody else's season over his because he had the triple crown. He had the most receptions, the most yards, the most touchdowns. He's a heck of a route runner. He's also a heck of a blocker. And I had a wide receivers coach from a university that I know do me a favor. And I said, hey, break me down some game film. I know he only did it 30%, 35% of the time. But he ran some routes from the, because I was like, oh, he can't run out of the X. He can't be the outside receiver. You know what? He did it. And we saw the tape. And actually, he does it very well. Does he do it as much as DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams? No. But guess what? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the all-time leader in NBA scoring. And all he can do is skyhook.
That's it. Stop this and you stop me. Stop this and you stop me.
Stop my one. If you can't stop me out of the slot, shame on you. Not shame on me.
And why is that? And why is that even a question, Tone? And the reason why I'm asking you that is because if I'm not mistaken, 10 years ago, how much did you hear about Wes Welker this and Wes Welker that? Like you couldn't hear enough about Wes Welker. Wes Welker in the slot. He's the best slot receiver ever. Now all of a sudden, Cooper Kupp plays in the slot. He doesn't play on the edge enough. Well, actually, he does play on the edge. He might not play on the edge as much as he plays in the slot, but he's really good on the edge. Really good. And
so
I
don't know what it is about him that people just want to find and point out all the things he can't do.
It's two things, Tone. To be honest with you, the number one thing is last year, he wasn't great. He was good. And he went from being good to being elite. So this may very well look like something that may be a fluke. Like, wait a minute, this dude, this might be a fluke. And it might be. It might be. The second part about this, and I will absolutely say it, is because he's white. That's why.
Wes Welker was white.
And you know what Wes Welker wasn't doing? Wes Welker wasn't leading the league in touchdowns. Look, Wes Welker wasn't leading the league in receptions. Wes Welker wasn't leading the league in yards. I bet you if Devontae Adams, if Allen Robinson was leading the league in touchdowns, receptions, and yards, he'd be on SportsCenter. He'd be the lead on SportsCenter every week. Absolutely. I think about Jerry Rice, who did win the Triple Crown in '88. We didn't talk about Steve Largent nearly as much as we should have because he was absolutely awesome. And you know why we didn't talk about him? Because he was a 5'10" white guy in Seattle who really didn't look like much, even though he was doing so much work up there. So I absolutely think that has something to do with it.
Listen, I always hope to say, oh, we're past that. I know we're not. In fact, on Friday's episode, we're going to talk about how last year there were 7 head coaching positions in the NFL, and only the last one, and I was told because there was pressure on the Houston Texans, the last one was a black hire who's subsequently been fired. This year, there's 9 openings. There's only 1 black coach in the NFL. 70% of the players are black. We're going to talk about the percentage of ex-players. We're going to talk about we're going to dive into that on Friday. Absolutely. But there's 9 openings this year with only 1 black head coach. And I think 4 hires, all a bunch of nice guys that we know. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that's on Friday. So as much as I say, I hope that it's not that. It's
interesting you mentioned that too, because since we're on the subject of conspiracy theory, since we on that subject, you got something pretty good today, huh?
It's not me. This is yours. Because I follow you on TikTok. I watch your TikToks. That's how I first heard about you. And you brought up one. So I want you to tell us about. So Michael Jordan, the famous flu game, goes into Utah. You could tell that he's dying, and puts on a performance reminiscent of like Willis Reed coming out for the Knicks. I think Paul Pierce tried to copy him when he had diarrhea. Like we had these other cases. So tell me about, as we like to do with conspiracy, we tell both sides. So start with what rabbit hole you went down on your TikTok.
Let me paint this picture for you, right? It's 1997. Jordan is still in the prime of his career. Not only is he in the prime of his career, he's chasing legacy. right? He just won the season before that, won his 4th championship in 6 years, right? So he's
went
basically
72-10.
By the way, let's make sure we clear on that. And then this season, they won 69 games, and they're awesome. And he's chasing history. What I mean when I say he's chasing history, he's trying to surpass what he had already done. We won a championship 3 times in a row. Bird can't say that. Magic can't say that. Jabbar can't say that. These are the guys who...
At that point, only George Mikan and Bill Russell.
That's it.
Could say
nobody
that they
else
three-peated or more in the case of Russell.
Nobody else could say that they had done that. And we trying to do it twice. Now, I already did it once. I'm trying to do it twice. Yes. And we're playing against a really good Utah team. We ain't playing against a team that's just good for the Western Conference. No, they got a legit shot at beating us. And the series is tied 2-2. Right? Now, everybody knows that I like to go out and have a good time from time to time. Everybody knows that, you know, you could find me frequenting at a casino here and there or a bar from time to time. Now, does that mean that, you know, I like to get wild all the time? No, but I do like to have a good time on my time when I have downtime. But here we are. This is the biggest game of the season, Tone. This isn't a big game. The winner of Game 5 of the series, whatever playoff series it is, finals, Eastern Conference, doesn't make a difference. The winner of Game 5 wins the series almost 80% of the time. That's the swing game. And the night before this game, I got a bunch of people that I'm hanging around, and we're hanging in my room, and I'm not getting ready mentally. I'm not getting focused. Nah, you know what I'm doing? I'm down in vodka. I'm down in Hennessy, and I'm getting blitzed. And in the process of that, I get hungry, and I call up a pizza place, and I ask, this is the only pizza place that's open. Oh, by the way, I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning too, by the way, Tony. I'm not getting like sleep. I'm up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and I had some food, and I'm just getting smashed. And then I show up to the Delta Center the next night, because it's not the Vivint Arena. Wasn't the Vivint Arena in 1997. It was the Delta Center. So I show up to the Delta Center the next day, hungover. Now I'm thinking to myself, have you ever tried to do anything? Forget playing pro basketball, Tone. Have you ever tried to do anything hungover? It is incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult to do anything hungover. You telling me that this dude, and by the way, the Delta Center in Salt Lake City was at that time the toughest place to play in the NBA. There wasn't a place tougher in the NBA to play. This guy goes in there, scores 38, 6 and 7, but he was hungover. It blows my mind that people think that he was doing that. So it blows my mind.
Where's the conspiracy?
The conspiracy is that he was drunk the night before.
So you're saying that he did not have the flu? No.
What I am saying, yes, I believe that before I believe he was smashed.
Okay, so let's. You went to Utah State. Let me ask you, is there anything else to do in Utah but sit in your room and play cards and smoke cigars?
There's nothing going on in you.
Especially back then. I'm saying back
then. I was about to say, like now there might be a little bit more. You got social media. You got so many other things. Today, in 1997, 1995, there wasn't much going on in Utah.
Okay, so here's the 3 stories you hear. 1, he had the flu, because that's why it's called the flu game.
Mm-hmm.
2, something was up with that pizza and he had food poisoning. Or 3, he just drank and smoked too much and he was really hungover. However,
put the numbers back up, Tone. Put the numbers back up. That one right there, number 2. That's the one I'm looking at.
Number 2?
Yes, number 2. That's the one I'm liking.
The food poisoning? That's the food poisoning.
I think he has some bad food, because you're not. It's blowing my mind, Tone. That I'm in the night before the game. I'm getting blitzed with a bunch of people. Like I don't have nothing to do tomorrow. No.
So let me say this. 1, flu game sounds a lot better than food poisoning game or rotten guts game. Sounds much better than the hangover game. Although nice trilogy of movies. 3rd one not as good as the other 2. But the flu game sounds better. But let me say this, because people forget, because people are thinking like when they're 22 and they're like, what are you talking about? I was up drinking all night, didn't sleep, went to work all day. No problem. Yeah, I've done that. I've done that too. It's a little different when you're 35.
Not the same.
It's not the same when you're 35 and you got to play professional basketball against the greatest athletes in the world. Like, it's different. But let me say this. One, I think it was food poisoning, to be honest. I think the mixture of the vodka, the Henny, the cigars, the pizza. Listen, pizza just naturally, if you just think about it, and think back. Anytime you've eaten a lot of pizza, especially depending on what you put on it, tends to give you heartburn.
Doesn't go down as smooth as what you're saying, Tom?
It doesn't go down smooth. You mix that with cigars and booze.
So wait. So he was. So you under the impression that he was sipping a little something that night?
Oh, of course. I've never seen him not sipping something.
Oh man.
I watched the last Dance. He's just. But it's funny. People want to knock him for that, or knock players. Like, I remember people saying, back in the 70s, they used to, smoke cigarettes at halftime. That's more impressive. That's not less impressive. That's more impressive. So my thing is, for me, I get it. It's called the flu game. That's a good marketing spin, I believe, is what we call it in the marketing business. That's a good marketing spin, the flu game. But let me ask. But when people want to say, well, it wasn't really the flu. It was food poisoning. He was hungover. It was alcohol poisoning. Does that make it less impressive?
It actually makes it more impressive.
Does it? Because have you ever tried to do? You said, have you ever tried to do something hungover? Have you ever tried to do something with food poisoning? When your belly's doing backflips and
I can't even stand up. I've had food poisoning and I can't stand up. Forget doing anything. I could hardly stand up. I'm in the bed,
which is probably why Pippen had to help him
right.
To the bench.
Right, absolutely. I have a difficult time, Tone, when I listen to people talk to me about, even you. I'm listening to you tell me. By the way, Tone, his trainer is in the room. The dude who is responsible for keeping my body in good health and what I'm consuming. I'm in there with him, and I'm down in vodka. And maybe because the game is the next night, maybe I'm not down in vodka, according to you guys. Maybe I'm just sipping a little something. I'm not down in vodka. I can have a drink. No, Tone, that's not going on. Because there was a time in my life when I replaced water with vodka. There was a time in my life. And how'd that go? How'd that go?
Well, let's just say I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, not so much. I probably figured that out. Not so much. Absolutely. So I'm thinking about this guy who is not just the best basketball player in the game. I'm going up against the league MVP. I'm going up against the league MVP at this point, right? And I'm going up against arguably the best point guard in the game. So with all of that being said, I'm not getting myself together. I'm just in the room like, yo, we got these guys tomorrow, man. Forget it. Yo, pass me some more of this vodka. Hey, you hungry? Because I'm hungry. I can have a pizza. That this guy is just in his room, hanging out with a bunch of people like there's nothing going on and there's nothing at stake. It blows my mind that people think that, Tone. No way.
And this is why I say this. When people say players from the older era couldn't hang in today's era, I laugh. Because I'm like, they did that while drinking and smoking and not sleeping. And you get a good trainer with those guys, you think they're going to be worse? All right. So we'll leave it at that. So let's leave. So whatever you believe. All right. So we're supposed to make a judgment. So food poisoning.
Food poisoning.
Sorry,
food poisoning. That's where I'm going. Food poisoning, right. No hangover. I'm not buying that.
All right.
No.
So instead of the flu game, ladies and gentlemen, because I actually agree with you, we call it the Rotten Guts game. Is the 1997 Jordan Rotten Guts game was epic.
Because and real quick, Tone, I don't know if you know this because you're a Kobe guy. Rewind the clock back to the Western Conference Finals in 2002. The Los Angeles Lakers are staying at the Sheraton in Sacramento. Kobe Bryant eats some bad food. Not only does he eat some bad food, he comes into the game not feeling great. In the Rotten Guts game, and just so you know, the Lakers, they checked out of that hotel the next day. They were gone.
Oh,
they
listen,
didn't stay there.
They were gone. If we're talking about the true conspiracy, true conspiracy is the pizza guys knew that it was going to Jordan's room, and they purposely did something to the pizza to make sure that he wasn't feeling well. And, there was a guy from the pizza place came on. I think it was the Dan Patrick show or one of these shows. Like, what? No, absolutely not. I don't believe you. I don't believe it. But that's a real conspiracy. That's a real conspiracy. Is that
could he tell you anything, Tone? Could he tell you anything to make you believe that he did not do anything?
No, because you know what? I would have done the same thing. I would have done the same thing. Again, I'm assuming, right? You're a pizza guy. He's what, 20 years old, 30 years old, whatever it is. He's in Utah. Their Jazz are in the NBA Finals. Karl Malone, John Stockton, 2-2. Like you said, I want to give them an edge. I wouldn't be. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying. Let me look into the. I'm not saying do it. I'm saying I feel like Chris Rock. Do you remember Chris Rock? He used to be like I'd never hit my wife, but I understand. Yeah, I disagree with all of that, by the way. But I wouldn't poison someone, but I understand.
You're a 20-year-old kid.
I'm a 20-year-old kid.
You got a pizza spot. 22-year-old kid, and the Toronto Raptors are in the NBA Finals for the first time in their history, by the way. And the series is tied 2-2, and LeBron James orders pizza.
Oh! I'm doing something to that pizza. Right. And when I say something, I'm not saying like I'm gonna put in like illicit drugs and stuff.
Rat poisoning or something like that.
I'm not trying to kill him, but I'm like, it's gonna be undercooked. There might be some moldy cheese in there. There's gonna be something that he's gonna feel the next day, right? He's not sleeping that night. Him and the porcelain princess over there, they're gonna be friends that for as long as they possibly. Oh yeah, 100%. I'm not gonna shy away from that. I'll do it. I was gonna say don't at me. At me, I don't care. I do it, and you know what? You do the same. And if you don't, I'm looking in the camera again to anybody who's watching. Don't forget to subscribe. You're lying. You do the same thing. If you're a true sports fanatic, because we forget the word fan. The word fan is just short for fanatic. So if you're a fanatic, you're doing. Now, if you don't care about the game, then you're not going to do anything. But if you're a huge fan, listen. If my Chicago Bears, I love my Chicago Bears. My Chicago Bears, it's been since 2006. But if they make it back to the Super Bowl, and they're playing, let's see, who could they be playing in the AFC? They're playing
Los Angeles, the Chargers.
They're playing the Chargers, and I get to mess around with Herbert's food. I'm doing it. There. Hopefully that never happens because then they're coming right to me. I'm doing it. All right. So that was that. We gave you a double dose of conspiracy, and I think we both agree it's food poisoning. And you agree that the pizza guy did something, right? Okay, thank you.
I believe that more than he was smashed.
Okay, all right.
I'll believe that more than he was smashed. Yes.
So now to today's NBA. I got 4, but there's more that I want to talk about. But I want to start with these 4 trade rumors because the trade deadline is coming up, and we're going to talk more about some of these trades. So I'm going to start in the West. Apparently, the Pelicans. We know that Portland needs to do something, right? Portland's not going anywhere, so they need to start. And we've heard about Nurkic as well. But I want to start with the CJ McCollum. So apparently, the Pelicans. Fly Pelican. I can't say Pelican without thinking of Scarface. Fly Pelican. CJ McCollum is a target of the Pelicans. Why?
That's a good question, Tone. Why would New Orleans? Well, New Orleans is New Orleans, and they're a very unstable franchise. And with CJ McCollum, maybe they're looking at it like he may give them some extra edge with Brandon Ingram and Valanciunas. So you bring in CJ, and the question is, what would you have to give up to get CJ? And does CJ give them enough to push them toward the playoffs? And we're talking about the Western Conference, and I don't think so. Not to mention,
not this year. Like, I think if the Pelicans are doing anything, like, they're probably thinking, hey, next year, if we have a trio of CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, who I don't think is ever going to play again. Sorry.
You think he overtone?
I don't think he's going to play. Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to play a full season. And I said this is draft day. But I don't. If you're relying on Zion to come back, like, you have as much chance as Greg Oden being your starting center. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. But maybe they're hopefully optimistic. So I could see next year having CJ Ingram, and if you think Williamson's going to be back, having that trio, CJ McCollum being that kind of veteran scorer. I could see that being a plan because this year, look, I don't think they're going anywhere this year.
Well, when I look at CJ and I look at what he's done, I mean, we are talking about a 20-a-game scorer, Tone.
Yeah,
We're not
he
talking
can.
about.
Hey, he's a bucket.
We're not talking about a guy who's just okay. We're talking about a guy who's 20 a game. So with that being said, he can help them. Now, is he a guy that's they're moving forward with in the future? I mean, how many more years do you think CJ got? I mean, CJ, I think he's in year 8 now. So I think they've gotten him. If they were to get him, they get him in his prime, and it would be obvious that Portland is definitely moving towards starting over. So that would definitely mean that Dame is next. And we would have to get some draft picks out of this. And when I say draft picks, Tone, I mean some ones because they're starting over.
Yeah, exactly. You're basically saying, hey, Dame's forget this year, and then let's retool, let's rebuild. And literally, I would get rid of everybody and say, okay, who's Dame going to be next year? Okay, he's going to be this guy. What does he need around him to have a chance? Right. And if you can clear out all the salary cap, right, you look for another superstar, of course, and then a bunch of those key supporting roles that will play their role, understand their role, be excited to play in Portland, which is it's a tough sell for most players. But yeah, that's what you got to do in Portland, right?
Does Dame want to be?
Because otherwise, Dame needs to go too.
That's my point, Tone. Because does Dame want to be? We're talking about a guy who's in a year. I think he's in year 10 now. Do I want to be a part of a rebuild? I'm 31 years old. I probably got 4 more years left at this level before I start slowing down. And I got to maximize this. And do I want to be a part? This is something that has to work. Whatever you guys are doing, this isn't something that I hope that you get it right. No, this is something that has to work. And because of that, do I want to be a part of that? I don't know if I want to be a part of that.
Listen, I'm not suggesting a rebuild like what they did to Harden. Right, where they got rid of everybody and they bring in a bunch of young guys, a John Wall on a prove it deal, I think Boogie Cousins on a prove it deal, and then a bunch of kids, and then Harden's like, forget this, get me out of town, right? No, you can't do that to him. But we've seen in the NBA, you can like flip 8 to 10 guys on your roster, and it's a brand new team, but it's not a rebuild, right? Because it's again, you bring in I don't even know who's I'm not looking at the free agents right now. But I don't know. There's going to be some superstar free agents available. I'm sure there is every year. And you bring, 2 of those guys in, 1 of those guys in, and a bunch of role players.
Or you could flip. The Boston Celtics proved that in 2008 that you could flip 2 or 3 guys and we could be right back in the middle of it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, Paul Pierce. We're going to make a trade for Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, and all of a sudden, hey, we're the big 3. Yeah, yeah, you can do that. So for sure. It didn't work out for the Clippers, but the Clippers did it just recently. Where hey, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard's going to sign. Boom, there you go. You got an instant contender, right? It didn't work out, but at least you have a shot. All right. The next one is interesting because we trust Woj, even though someone in our TikTok live told us Shams is really the guy who's more accurate, but we trust Woj, and Woj says that the Kings aren't all the way out on Ben Simmons. And I've said this before. I don't think it's his ideal landing situation, but I think the Kings is the best situation for Ben Simmons to be the leader of that team where there's low expectations. I think he'd really thrive.
I actually think it's Minnesota, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I like him. I like Philadelphia calling up Minnesota and asking for D'Angelo Russell and another role player. And Ben Simmons is with that group. And now there's the playmaker that Cat is looking for. There's the playmaker that Anthony Edwards is looking for. It might be a similar situation in Philadelphia in terms of players. So Cat basically replaces Embiid, but he does have, number one, it's a smaller market. So the heat that he would get in Philly, he's not going to get that in Minnesota. So I think it would be a better situation for him. But the flip side to that, Tone, with Minnesota being a good situation for him, I also look at Ben Simmons being on a team where he is the guy, like New Orleans, like Orlando,
Sacramento,
even Sacramento. The thing that I don't like about Sacramento is I love Davion Mitchell, and I want Davion Mitchell playing right from the beginning because I think that he could be one of the better lead guards in the game, and I just don't like him sitting behind anybody right now.
What we've heard. Because I don't want to say what we know, but what we've heard about Ben Simmons. Do you want him influencing Cat and Anthony Edwards if he does have this bad attitude?
I don't think that
because there's going to be some jealousy. I'm sorry, it was there with Embiid. right?
Well,
When there's a better player, I feel like he's that kind of guy.
I don't think it's that more than it is his skin is thin. And Philadelphia handled this situation completely wrong. They absolutely dropped the ball on
Right.
this. And
I agree with that.
he was criticized, which that happens in professional basketball, happens in professional sports. Now, what can't happen is I can't get criticized by the organization where they have no faith in me. So, or they have very little faith in me. It's a difference between, can we win with this guy? Well, he has to come back and get better. And then I think that if he gets better, I think that when we got a lot of work to do. And when he does that, we'll be better and he'll be better. And then we'll have a better shot, as opposed to, I don't really know if we can win with this guy. Well, that's not a vote of confidence right there. Not only is it not a vote of confidence, to now later on hear from the rest of the crew that, well, he didn't play well, and then try to clean it up later. Well, it's too late at that point. It is absolutely too late at that point. And then for Ben to respond the way he responded, which was soft, because again, that's part of the game. You're going to get criticized. Absolutely, you're going to get criticized. Now, he handled it the way he handled it, which I thought was wrong, but I also thought Philadelphia dropped the ball too. Tone, what I equated to, we're out. It's you, me, and a bunch of other guys, and we're out, and I get jumped on. And all you guys do is stand there and watch. You didn't do anything. That's what I thought Philadelphia did in this situation.
Really, I feel like a couple of them jumped in and kicked him too.
Yeah, that might be like they didn't. It's bad enough you didn't stop it, but maybe one or two of them actually got involved in it too.
We ain't babysitting. I
Right.
believe was the quote from Embiid. So I know that was later on, but still.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next one, and this is an interesting one because when I heard the name pop up in trade rumors, I was like, why the heck would they do that? And so the reply has been, why in the bleep would we do that? We're not doing it. But apparently it would take a shocking offer, which I'm not surprised, to pry Jalen Brunson away from Dallas. Why was his name even in trade rumors?
I dig Jalen Brunson. And
Me too.
I think he's one of the better young lead guards in the game. And I dig him. So it's always like that when the trade deadline comes around. You start throwing names around. You start throwing around guys who could possibly be something for another team. So when you look at Jalen Brunson, I'm sure that there are other teams in the league that need a lead guard like New Orleans that are like, we take him, absolutely. And Mark Cuban is looking at New Orleans like, click, do not call me. Absolutely not. Do not call me and ask for him because he is not available. I am not going to help your team get better. No way am I going to do that. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was, I think it was in a Miles Turner trade where I first heard it, which I get. Miles Turner and Sabonis are hot commodities. The Pacers are. It sounds like they're having a fire sale, but I'm really surprised. Like if you really are trading Sabonis and Turner and LeVert and Holiday and kind of everybody they have on that roster, I would have thought at least one of those pieces would have fallen already. Like I don't like the fact that are they going to wait to do all these trades right at the deadline? That's surprising to me. I think it's a lot more smoke than there is fire. There's some fire. Don't get me wrong, because where there's smoke, there's fire. Coach Jackson always used to tell me, where there's smoke, there's smoke. Yeah, fair enough. But I don't think everybody gets traded away.
Right.
But there's another player. This is from my Lakers who there's some previous. I believe it was last year. There was a trade, and they said we're not parting with Horton Tucker. We're not doing it. He's too important to the team. And I went, you guys are nuts. You trade him away today if you can get. I think it was a Kyle Lowry. It was there was all these players where I think it was a Ben Simmons deal. Like there's so many deals, and his name was in those packages, and they said we're not getting rid of him. Well, now the Lakers are looking to improve their roster ahead of the trade deadline, but Horton Tucker is viewed by other teams as a marginal player at best. I don't disagree.
I don't either.
Pelinka messed up this one, right?
Yes, he did. Absolutely, he did, because his trade value was a lot higher last year. And teams do this all the time, Tone, where they overvalue guys when they're hot and they think that they could get more than they actually can for them. And it didn't help THT's stock when Monk showed up. And not only did Monk show up and started playing better. So now THT's game got exposed for him being who he actually is. And, there are teams that are looking at him going, well, Can he help us? But the $1 million question, whenever you're making a deal, is not only how does this help my team, what do I have to give up to get him? And what is THT's value? Could I get a 1 for THT? I doubt that very seriously.
No.
I doubt very seriously that I could get a 1 for him. However, what I'm not going to do is I'm not letting him walk out the front door. I can tell you that right now. You can't just let him walk. If I could get a 2 for him, because your Lakers, Tone, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 2026 or 27 is the next year that you have a 1.
2027 is the next. 2026 is the next one. 2027 is the next one we can trade.
Right. So we're talking 5 years. 4 years before you got a 1, 5 years before you could trade a 1. So all the draft picks that I could possibly get, I'm definitely getting them. So if I can get a 2 for Horton Tucker, then I'm absolutely doing that. But his trade value, I think, is definitely declined.
I find this a lot. And GMs, I want to smack them sometimes because I'm like, you're not fans. Fans, I understand. Every fan thinks our player is worth more on the market than they truly are.
Right.
Almost in every case. I play fantasy basketball, fantasy football.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on the opposing teams, right? When I try to make them a trade offer, I'm not getting rid of him. Why? Is some magical being there? Like, stop it. So we always overvalue. GMs can't do that, right? Like when we see trades and we're like, that's all you got? Yeah, that's all they're worth. That's all they're worth. Oh, he got fleeced. No, he didn't. He didn't. Now, some cases they did. Right. But in most cases, you're just overvaluing a player because of what you think they can do. Right? But
it's official, Tone.
What's official?
Tom Brady's out.
No.
He just said it just now. He's out. It's official.
So let's pause there. We're not going to edit this out. We're going to stop because it's live. No, we're not live, but live update. So Tom Brady. All right. So THT, trade him. He stinks. So Tom Brady. So it came out. Schefter, I think, reported it that he was traded. He said, I hadn't made my decision yet. I think he wanted to break the news, which is why he had said he hadn't decided yet. He has now officially come out, Tom Brady. What are you seeing there? What is it?
Tom on Instagram, Tom officially retires.
He's now officially he's said it now.
Tom Brady officially announced his retirement on Instagram.
So listen, I'm not surprised. Tom Brady is starting kind of this media empire, with the podcasts and the shows. And, I get it. He wanted to break the story. He was probably, I said this to you yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back and played a year out of spite just so that he could break the news. But, so I'm not surprised that he wanted to be the one to do it. So I'm pretty sure he was upset about that.
I just didn't, Tone. I didn't think he liked the way that story came out. It was a week after they had lost and the wound was still fresh and he just wasn't ready to talk about it just yet. And
listen, he might not have been 100% either because I think to his teammate, they asked Gronk and he said, look, the way my body's feeling right now, I'm not coming back next year. But you have to sit, heal a little bit. The loss hurts you. Like if you're a true competitor, every loss hurts you. I still remember losses, and it's been 30 years since I've played really competitive anything.
Right.
And I'm still like, man, if I just would have hit that shot, if I would have made that pass, they bother you. So if I would have caught that ball, whatever. So I think he needed that time to be like, am I sure? Like, I think I want to retire. Or, hey guys, I'm going to retire. But you want to make sure, right? That's going to be the choice that you make. When he goes down as the GOAT, right? Greatest quarterback ever.
I do think so.
No debate.
I don't think there's a debate. I can make an argument for Joe Montana that he went to the Super Bowl 4 times and won 4 times. Never threw an interception, undefeated in the Super Bowl. But when I think about Tom Brady and the things that he's done over the course of his career, I mean, the fact that Tom Brady didn't, he did go a decade without winning a Super Bowl, right? So, I mean, you can make an argument for other people, but ultimately, Brady is the GOAT.
Listen, if Montana had 8 to Brady's 7, and Montana was 8-0, I think you'd have a better case.
Or let's say 5-0, Tone, or maybe even 6. I think we can have that conversation.
Maybe.
But we're talking about a dude that's almost got double of what you have.
Right. Maybe. I look at it this way. 20 years in the league, right? Most yards, most touchdowns, most completions.
That's nuts, man.
20 years in the league with a decade in between, not winning one, but he still went 10 times.
That's nuts.
So in 20 years, 50% of the time he's in the Super Bowl and he wins 7 of those 10, 70%. That's a pretty good closing ratio, as we say in sales. Right. So,
if I close the deal 70% of the time,
I think it's going to be really hard for anybody to catch him, because people want to put Mahomes in the. I'm like, listen, Mahomes probably has to win at least 5 or 6 Super Bowls and not lose any just to be in the conversation, because then you still got all the stats that he has to catch up to, and it's still a passing league. Mm-hmm. But let's be honest, you're gonna have to play 15 years at a really high pace to come close to his numbers, because he played for 20
just to get in that conversation.
So to say that someone's gonna catch him, I'm thinking, yeah, but it's gonna be like 2035 before we can have that conversation. Just think about that.
Not even to say somebody passed him.
Because who is possibly in the conversation today that's playing?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Tone.
I would say Mahomes, right? Because his first 5 years have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He's still got to go another 10 years, at least.
Right. Herbert just got here. Burrow just got here.
Yeah.
All these young quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. I think he's on the other side of his prime.
Yeah. So it's too late for Russ.
We just talked about a conspiracy theory, and you talked about how I would do it. Tone, I talk to Patriot fans who boo-hoo about Tom Brady, and my logic to them, because I'm ready to lose my mind when I hear this, my logic to them, because they boo-hoo about Tom Brady going, and you were in the bowl game 9 times in 20 years. You had the greatest quarterback in the history of the game for 2 decades. What that means, right? That means that if I'm 30 years old, Tom Brady was the quarterback for my team since I was in the 5th grade. I don't want to hear any logic from you. No, I don't. And I can tell you right now, Tone, I am not a violent man. But if you told me that I could have Joe Montana from the 5th grade to 30 years old, I'm not a violent man. But you might be able to talk me into cracking a knee or breaking an arm for that. I'm very much interested in that.
All right. Only because of the breaking news, I'm going to ask you one more Tom Brady question. Then we're going to get into our Super Bowl mail drop.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing.
We do break live news on here too, by the way, guys.
I'm going to post this right now, right after we finish, and then post the full episode. That being said, Roger Clemens,
mm-hmm.
Pete Rose,
mm-hmm.
Barry Bonds are called cheaters. And because of that, they're not in the Hall of Fame. The one thing that they don't necessarily have is that while they were playing, they were never caught, tried, and convicted of cheating. Tom Brady was. Does that influence his Hall of Fame status?
It should. It absolutely. And not only should it, but take it a step further than that, Tone. Like you just said, they were never caught, tried, and convicted. First of all, there wasn't a rule to say that I couldn't do this. There was no rules to say that I can't do steroids. There was no rule to say that I couldn't do this.
Right.
That's number one. Number two.
People seem to forget that.
Let's make sure that steroids was not illegal in pro baseball.
Now, Pete Rose, there was a rule.
Right.
There was a rule.
There was a rule. However, there was not only was there not a rule, there were guys who were doing it who made it clear that we were doing it. So prime example would be Jose Canseco. Everybody roasted Jose Canseco, and he got such heat for talking about, or he's a snitch, or not only a snitch, but he doesn't have any credibility. I absolutely believed his story, because basically what he told me was not only was Mark McGwire on the juice, where do you think he was getting it from? Who do you think he was getting it from?
His Bash brother.
Right. Where do you think he was getting it from? So when I think about Tom Brady's situation with it, first of all, I think it was a made up story. But even with that being said, there are rules here, and those rules weren't followed. With the steroid issue, there was no rule to say that I couldn't do this.
Well, and let's be honest, you've got guys in the Hall of Fame who use steroids.
David
got caught
Ortiz,
for using
David
steroids.
Ortiz said that he did it, and he just got elected into the Hall of Fame. I have no respect, and the Baseball Hall of Fame has no validity for me, none whatsoever. The best players.
The Houston Astros got caught cheating in the World Series, and they're still the World Series champs.
That thing did not get scratched out.
So how can you say these three guys can't be in? Okay, so back the actual question is: so do you think it affects his, or is he still, because of everything else, he's still a first ballot Hall of Fame?
I do think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but there is that cloud that he was cheating with. Was it not Bounty Gate? I'm sorry. What was that
Deflate Gate.
Deflate Gate.
Yeah, there's too many gates. There's Deflate Gate, Spy Gate,
right?
All the gates in the Patriots' history.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna do mail Super Bowl edition. Mm-hmm. Here we go. Can the Bengals? I'm surprised. Listen, I'm not surprised. This is the first question that I got sent. Can the Bengals protect Joe Burrow from that Rams pass rush?
I don't think it's going to matter, to be honest with you, Tone, because, I mean, I watched him win against Tennessee, and he got sacked 9 times. So he's going to have to deal with that pass rush. It's just a better pass rush, but him just staying upright and him having to be more mobile is going to be a huge factor in this game because he's going to get sacked. They're going to get to him.
So your answer to question 1 is no, they can't protect him.
No, they can't.
Okay. And I agree with you. No, they can't, because you're jumping ahead, because question 2 is, does it matter if they can or cannot protect? It was an A and B question. Maybe I should have said both. So no, you don't think it matters because, heck, they couldn't protect him against Tennessee. They couldn't protect him against the Chiefs. They couldn't protect him against even Oakland, I guess. And he just keeps winning, right?
He's still gonna get attacked. So the question is, can he stay upright?
Now we're going to jump over to the Rams with this one.
Oh, boy.
So I think we all agree Matthew Stafford is an upgrade from Jared Goff. How much of an upgrade, I think, is debatable. We sometimes forget that Matthew Stafford threw the most interceptions this season in the NFL. We forget that, I believe his name is...
Make sure you reiterate that, Tone. Matt Stafford led the league in interceptions, folks. Make sure we clear on that. He did do that.
People seem to forget. We also, we talked about it earlier, Tart, who will probably have nightmares for the rest of his NFL career, because if he catches that ball, the 49ers win, and everyone's saying, see, Matthew Stafford, told you, he threw away the game like he always does. How many bad throws? And there was more. Don't get me wrong. He has some. This is what I tell you, drives me crazy about Matthew Stafford. He throws some balls that I'm like, wow, that's the best throw I've ever seen. And then he throws somewhere I was like, wow, what the heck was he thinking?
What are you doing?
How many bad throws does Matthew Stafford have in him? We talked about it, right? We said week 1, week 2 in the playoffs, he was almost perfect. Mm-hmm. Week 3 against the 49ers, we saw he almost threw away that game. So how many does he have in him this week?
You just answered that, Tom. You just answered that. As many good throws as he has in him, he has just as many bad throws. So for every back shoulder, 15-yard out route that a guy runs where you like, wow, he'll throw into double coverage. And you're thinking, what are you doing? Oh, my God.
So you think he's going to give the Bengals defense, who are surprisingly been really good.
Very good.
He's going to give them a couple opportunities.
Tone, you already had this discussion. I'm watching the game and I'm saying he's going to let us back and just give it some time. He's going to give you an opportunity. Don't worry.
Give me a number. How many bad throws do you think?
On the low end, 6.
6 bad throws?
On the low end.
And if the Bengals would capitalize, like 2 picks?
That's not ridiculous. That's not.
Okay. I like when I get tight end questions. I started my NFL. No.
Your football career.
My football career. I started my football career as a tight end. Because I wanted to be wide receiver. And they're like, you're big. Play tight end. I'm like, I don't want to block. That's okay. That's fine. So I like tight end questions. And I don't know if you can see it. Maybe if I move. There's a Mike Ditka jersey back there.
Right
Mike
there.
Ditka, not just a great coach, but a tight end back in his day. One of the first receiving tight ends, but that's a story for another day.
Mm-hmm.
Is CJ Uzoma? We both say his name wrong all the time. You think he's going to be okay?
That sprained MCL
it looked
tough,
pretty
Tom.
bad. He was carted off the field. Do you think it gives them enough time, the 2 weeks?
Well, here's the thing. The thing is we don't have any structural damage and it wasn't torn. So that's a good thing. Sprains, I've always said this, Tone, sprains and contusions take weeks to heal. Torn ligaments and broken bones take months. So he's got 2 weeks to just hang and get therapy. And maybe after 2 weeks, he may very well be ready. Now, if we had something different, I think we have a different conversation. But I think he'll be ready.
Okay. Last one for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Ramsey. Some people say he's lost a step. Some people say he's still the best corner, definitely on the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably going to get the assignment of having to cover Jamar Chase most of, if not the whole game. And the big thing is, I take this from Deion Sanders because he said, if you can't trust Deion, when I tell you what I'm about to say, who can you trust?
Right.
And Deion always used to say, it wasn't me against the wide receiver. It was me against the quarterback, right? Because I could stay with the wide receiver, but my job was to bait the quarterback into throwing at me so that I could take it to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really Joe Burrow versus Jalen Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
Who wins that battle?
Well, Jalen Ramsey's been around for a little bit, so he's seen a lot of different quarterbacks. He's gone against Tom Brady, right? He's gone against he's gone against Russell Wilson. He's gone against Kyler Murray. So he's seen some of the better QBs in the league. Joe Burrow's only in year 2. So Joe Burrow's got a lot of growth and he's got a lot of learning to do. So Jalen Ramsey could very well trick him into things that he might not want to get tricked into, right? So I think Jalen Ramsey can very well win this battle.
So you give Jalen the check?
I think Jalen Ramsey can win this battle.
Because I just always pick.
Of course you do.
I just always pick the opposite. It doesn't. I tell people like people message me like, you're always wrong. I'm like, I'm not wrong. I'm just giving you the other side.
That's all.
So the other side is, because I don't disagree with that Jalen Ramsey take, but the other side is, I would hope that the coaching staff of the Bengals, Joe Burrow, know that. And they're going to watch a ton of film and say, this is what he bites on, right? Because Jalen Ramsey also has the beauty of Joe Burrow only being in his second year. You don't really have a lot of tape on his tendencies.
No, you don't.
Jalen Ramsey's been around a long time. We know his tendencies. We saw how Mike Evans was able to beat him in that Bucks game. And now you say, well, if you have tendencies for 10 years, it's a lot harder to do something different. Whereas if you're a quarterback in year 2, you can say, hey, I normally would do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set him up with that and then go over here.
Right.
So if there's a really good coaching staff and Joe Burrow's as smart of a quarterback as I think he is, I think he can get the best of Jalen Ramsey more than Jalen Ramsey gets the best of him, because they can see, they know what he bites on. They know what he's good at. They know what he's not good at. So just I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying just watch that other side.
By year 6, year 7, this is who you are.
You know who you. Yeah, we know who he is, and
this is who you are.
They got 2 weeks to figure it out.
Yes, they do.
So this is really, this is gonna be really good. This is why I like the Super Bowl. I hate having to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like it because I really get to see the coaching. Like, what did you do, right, to make those adjustments, to put in new wrinkles into your play? I always love when I see an offense run out of the same set 2-3 times, and like the one time it's a run, then it's a play action, it's a pass, it's because as a defense, I've seen this play before. No, you haven't. It's a completely different play, right? So those are the wrinkles I like to see. All right, so that's it for this week's edition of Fluid and Chill. Tom Brady is officially no more. He has retired. The Bucks now also going to be in the market for a new quarterback. So you've got a bunch of teams, and we'll talk about it on Friday. We'll talk about head coaches. We're going to talk about the QB carousel, and some NBA news. And I've already got questions in mail drop about life. So we're going to get back to that next week. But until Friday, I shouldn't say next week, I should Friday. Until next week. Damn it, I did it again. I did it again. Not next week. No, this week. This Friday, is Wednesday. Tom. Until Friday.
This Friday. Take it light, but take it.
I took 3 tries.